LCK Summer, I should say.
See how the bans change. I imagine KT can ban basically the same stuff. It's just CJ Entus. What do they provide? Because they gave over the Nidalee, they gave over the Aurelia, and felt like in a lot of ways they gave over the victory with those two particular donations. So I think they have to, at minimum, find an Aurelia ban. And unfortunately, when it comes to Sunday, he's always got another carry champion in the chamber.
Sure. There's a VOD ban. So we did see the TF ban from KT in Game 1. We did see the VOD ban from CJ in Game 1 as well. Yep, Shen. So far, KT banning the same champs.
And Shen has really shown up as a blocker pick to these carry top laners. Aurelia, for example, does lose to Shen over the course of a game pretty heavily unless she gets a lot of jungle help. In general, he kind of neutralizes a lot of these bad matchups, so it feels like Shen is going to be a pretty staple ban for KT if they want to keep Someday on his carry form.
Yeah, it really does seem like you want to allow Someday to carry from that top lane, banning the Shen. Fits along with that. There's the Aurelia ban from CJ, probably a pretty good idea.
Still plenty of carry tops available though. We're still waiting for the first Jax in the LCK. If Expression doesn't do it, maybe no one will, but we can be optimistic that one day we'll see a Jax.
Yeah. You know, we've been seeing, I should say, Renekton work a little bit better in the last couple days. Someday used to be kind of a Renekton-only player, so you know he's got that pick.
Well, Renekton's basically a counter pick to Trinity Force top lane. Specifically, Jax and Aurelia get wrecked by Renekton, especially in the 1v1, sorry.
Yeah.
So with Aurelia banned, probably a lesser chance we'll see Renekton, but...
Oh, KT the ones to ban out Rek'Sai this time, not wanting to let Haru have that.
So what do they want to first pick? They're banning away the Rek'Sai is what we'll see. Perhaps it was the Jhin. That's banned away, and Ryze makes it through picks and makes it through bans, and of course will be a first pick for KT.
Yeah, this does leave the Nidalee open for CJ, so they can go for that.
Haru hasn't excelled with Nidalee. He's got it a few times this season. It seems like people are less inclined to ban the Nidalee against CJ Entus, but it's an important takeaway from scorers. So regardless of about how he feels about playing it, they need to deny it from KT Rolster.
Yeah, I would say so. What do you pair with this, though? Maybe the Lucian? You could just grab that?
Feels like a bit of a reach, especially after the nurse. You could go for your pick of supports just because all of them are available, but even then, teams have been more trending towards last picking support.
I mean, taking the Braum might not be a bad idea, just to make sure those spears have a better chance.
Karma is available, could be taken here, but they didn't find a lot of value from the Karma last game, and they're at least considering, yeah, they will lock in Ashe in the first rotation.
Cool. All right, so the Ashe coming in, falling all the way through picks and bans in game number 1. But has been pretty strong for a lot of other teams.
I think when CJ find utility on their AD carry, they look strongest. So with Kramer back in the lineup, they're trying to run the Ashe. They've run Siva to decent success as well. And when they go for the Twitch, I think that's when it really falls apart, because CJ don't have a strong enough early game to delay for champions like Twitch and other power spikes. I mentioned that Someday always has a backup carry, and certainly Fiora, the only convincing Fiora player in the league so far has been Someday.
Yep, certainly go for it. The Sivir makes sense too. You could pair that with Karma at support a little bit later if you wanted to.
I think Braum now, as an answer to Ashe Arrow, is actually really good. And against Nidalee as well, stops a lot of that poke, so Braum makes a lot of sense. Chani put in a good shift on the Braum, barring that Q ult that we'll try and forget around the river.
Yeah, it will be that Fiora too for Someday.
CJ also ran a Lulu. Lulu hasn't been doing much work this season. Both Faker and BDD struggled on that Lulu pick. In fact, Cassiopeia has actually been a much better champion for CJ.
Yeah.
A lot of mid lane picks available.
No kidding. Yeah, Azir, Aurelion Sol. They could go with the Cassiopeia too, even though that'd be a little bit more surprising.
One of the things about the Cassio is it was always a great answer to Ryze in particular. Cassiopeia beats Ryze pretty handedly in lane, despite what you might have seen from Huhi in the MSI final. So this is actually a really good matchup. Now, that it is skill dependent, and we have to mention it's not BDD, who you'd say BDD versus Fly. You definitely say the mechanics of both players are pretty good, so you definitely take Cassiopeia in that matchup, but Sky's mechanics have always been a big question mark, and you can be run over in this lane despite the fact that Cassiopeia comes from an advantage. There's no guarantee that Cassiopeia will be able to run over the Ryze, and there's also, no, I think there is a guarantee that Ryze is going to be mid, given that we have a Fiora.
Probably. Well, there's the Sivir, and are we actually going to see... No, I didn't think so. There's the Elise. I was like, really? But no, this makes a bit more sense. So, Sivir, Elise.
Thought Score had been watching a bit of EDG and found some Clear Love Special in the Evelyn, but no, we'll just be the pretty standard choice of Elise. His highest career win rate jungler is the Elise, so plenty of comfort once again for KT. Even with these changes with the bans, you have to say, Ryze in the mid lane, Fly has always been a good Ryze player. Elise, Sivir, Fiora especially for someday.
Now CJ could go with a different top laner and just send that Trundle support, but it looks like they're going to grab something for Mad Life instead right now. The Bard ultimates didn't look too great in game number 1. Maybe you want to go with the Thresher instead, but it looks like they're leaning towards the Bard.
I mean, the power of the pick with Ashe and Bard is actually massive, so I don't mind this being the selection. In general, Mad Life's been very good on the Bard. It's just another game where we got this seesaw top lane matchup, Fiora versus Trundle. When we saw Someday play the Fiora, it was in this matchup. He was able to run away with it. But lots going to be about the junglers. Let's see Haru can do back in the team on the Nidalee. We just saw Score get an MVP with this champion. And there is always the chance that Haru can do the same on his Nidalee game.
Yeah, I suppose it's true. Well, at any rate, CJ does need a very different game than we saw in game number 1. If they want to have a chance to force the game 3 here.
KT have a lot less pressure in their lanes in the early game, specifically in the solo lanes. Fiora can run away with this matchup. Ryze in the early game is going to get bossed around. So we'll see if KT, with a 4-1 comp, or even potentially 1-3-1, Ryze would teleport, Fiora would teleport. They can turn it on early. If they can snowball those lanes, I think KT will comfortably take it, but there's always the what if, especially if the Nidalee gets rolling in the early game.
Yep, very true. And there we have it. KT versus CJ Entus. CJ just still searching for those elusive wins. Only one match win on the season so far for these guys. Against Longzhu. It'd be nice if they could at least force a game 3 today against KT Rolster. After game 1 though, it's looking tough.
There's some pretty wholesale changes in the early game. Skye will be running the exhaust. Pretty predictable. You need to run that summoner spell against Ryze.
Yeah.
I feel like they either need to send Someday or Fly way behind to win this game. So again, pressure's going to have to be on, I guess, mostly Haru, but if we see the roams from Mad Life, maybe he can make some plays as well.
Yep, it's going to be the plan. Mad Life back on the Bard once again. Looking to hit maybe a few more tempered fates this time than last game out. It's time to get into the game, though. Can KT close it out, or will CJ bring it back? Let's find out. All right, welcome to Summoner's Rift. This week is Ocean Drake week, apparently. KT Rolster versus CJ Entus. Game number 2. KT seeming like they should be able to close this series out 2-0 without much issue, but CJ going for a jungle change to see if they can maybe tie up the series. We'll see.
One thing I mentioned during picks and bans was the win rate of Score's Elise. He actually has an identical win rate on Elise and Nidalee. We saw the Nidalee from him in the last series. The difference is in the amount of games, though. 11 games of Nidalee, 73% win rate. 33 games, 3 times as many games, but still maintaining a 73% win rate on the Elise. Elise has been a staple for Score, who's good in the Kindred and Graves meta, but he makes it work on the Elise and Rek'Sai as well.
Skye on this Cassiopeia. Can be a very strong pick, like you mentioned, a good counter pick to Ryze, traditionally.
Even though Cassiopeia got a mage rework since then, it's still very much an oppressive laning matchup, as KT are looking for a late invade, spotted out by CJ Entus.
Yep. That will cause Haru and Mad Life to back up a little bit.
But as I mentioned in picks and bans, there's no guarantees about the Cassiopeia matchup, because Cassiopeia as a champion is pretty risky. She has to overextend to harass. You see the Q coming through. Will often push lane when looking for that harass. So you can definitely be ganked. Yeah, Mad Life's in Score's face.
Wow, and Mad Life successfully pushes Score off of that red buff. Taking a little bit too much damage early on. Coming back around, he's going to get another auto or 2. Those meeps doing work.
Yeah, Score didn't have smite either, so he couldn't even smite the red buff for either the secure or some sustain. This will have to go back into his jungle, focus on the walls for now.
Whoa. Oh.
That's not good.
Oh boy, well if you can't hit A stationary Gromp. That's not a good sign, Haru.
No, he's just working out his kinks on the jungle camp. So have it ready for the team fights. Don't worry, dog.
I hope so. Because the Gromp is not exactly a small target, man. That's like missing Jabba the Hutt with a spear. He's just laying there on that like little platform thing, man.
I never really thought about it, but there's quite a lot similar between the Gromp and Jabba the Hutt.
That's true.
Similar stature.
The Gromp doesn't really have a little like monkey thing hanging out with him to laugh at his jokes, though.
That's true.
Salacious Crumb is the name of that alien, if you're curious.
I
know you were curious.
I completely defer to your expertise on Star Wars.
In the Star Wars lore, it is said that Salacious Crumb had to make Jabba laugh at least once a day or he would be executed. It's a hard life.
Where did you learn about that, Doe? What part of lore confirmed that?
I believe it was in the Decipher Star Wars card game from the mid to late 90s. Great card game, the chess collectible card game.
Canon?
Actually. Yeah, it's canon. The stuff on that, the lore on those cards were canon, actually. Officially. Looks like it's going to be the typical lane swap.
One day there's going to be an expanded League of Legends universe, and then we're going to have to talk about
so?
canon and non-canon.
I don't know. We'll see. Not convinced.
Give it time, Doa. Replays are coming.
Oh, you went there.
I did.
That's so edgy. I'm going to name you Papa Edgy now.
Oh. Edgy Smithy?
Edgy Smithy. I like Papa Edgy a little better.
That's fair.
Yeah. Well, Storm manages to take the big Krug. Oh, I'm sorry, the ancient Krug. Oh man, like moving in with the Magic Journey.
Is he level 2?
Yeah, but you can still put some decent harass on.
KT don't have the vision to know if others are rotating. I guess they probably knew that Haru was on the bot side of the map, but for now, CJ will find that farm. Are overextended though, and Ash, as an immobile AD carry, prefers to be farming with a turret for safety.
Yep. Now, Untara recalled back to base. I wonder if they're gonna, yeah, they're just gonna switch lanes again. Yep.
We'll continue the lane swap. Means that when we do eventually get 1v1 top lane action, it will be super snowbally because there will be no turrets to run away to. Fiora is a little bit more slippery than the Trundle, so that might be a slight advantage to KT.
Very true. Aside from that, though, at least on the CJ side, they're going to start off the later stages of the early game on a little bit more even footing than they did in game number 1. So there is that.
That's the reason why the lane swap was such a staple, both in Korea and more significantly in the international regions, just because, again, you get through the early game, you guarantee gold. Sometimes you can get that first item onto an Ezreal, for example, in terms of the tier, get the tier map rolling on Trundle and not have to worry about what can be a very snowball early game laning phase.
Yep. Haru on that Nidalee. Maybe trying to make a play on the fly here. Maybe not. Oh, Chani got really low in bot lane.
Not really sure how Nidalee and Cassiopeia actually kill Arise pre-6 for the Cassia. They don't have any real CC to speak of.
It's a very good question, isn't it?
Optimistic, I would say.
Well, fly at least pokes a bit.
At this point, if they were to hit a spear, there might actually be enough damage to take down Fly even through exhaust.
Maybe. All right, well, there are the turrets in the lane swap, and now the action can begin.
Yay!
Yeah. Maybe.
Action.
Stop laughing at me, Elise.
Rise already has the tier, so doing just fine. First buy from Cassiopeia is now, though.
Yeah, and they may have been able to catch Untara here, going back, trying to get to his turret, but Score and Hachani are right there. There is no turret anymore, of course. Pillar drop down, Score waiting to throw that cocoon. There it is. Untara going to get stunned by the Braum passive, and he is just not going to make it up. First blood, yeah, taken by Hachani. He gets it. Got it with the Ignite.
An early kill in the first game as well, but the big thing there was to watch, if you're a jungler, is to watch how Score held onto the cocoon until Trundle pathed towards the remnants of his turret, which of course funnels him into a singular direction.
Yeah.
There was no way for him to juke. He could have flashed, but didn't predict the cocoon. But great use of that cooldown to guarantee the kill, and first blood to KT once again.
Yeah, I mean, good on Untara at least not flash, kind of knowing that he wasn't going to be able to get away from that one and saving that summoner for a more useful occasion, perhaps.
Probably will need it against Someday, who's already 12 CS ahead from this lane swap.
Yeah, Untara managing to be the same level, but certainly a little bit lower on the gold side of things.
We'll pick up a lot of experience on CS from this particular wave that we see, but the freeze is on from Fiora in bot lane.
Magical Journey? Nope. Oh well.
KT are going to try and hold a freeze in bot lane as long as possible. If Someday can get to his first item, he should actually win these trades against Trundle. It's a snowball matchup, but the CS is pretty squarely in the advantage of Fiora. I think that Someday, specifically on that champion, will do just fine.
Yeah. Shani managing to delay Hara's recall just a moment ago, as we saw. And will it be time for an Ocean Drake? Maybe, maybe not. Probably not.
Seems like the freeze is more important from KT. They will actually swap out Fiora, have the Fiora overextended top lane now that she has Phage, and leave the freeze for Arrow. Advantage of giving the freeze to Arrow is that Siva can push this wave whenever she wants. So if they decide they want to contest that dragon, they just have Siva instantly push out with Ricochet and Boomerang Blade, where Fiora will take a lot longer to push out that wave.
True.
Now Someday is super overextended, so we'll see how KT plays around that, because for now, at least it's actually pathing towards the bot side of the jungle.
Yeah, it doesn't really look like Someday is in any danger right now.
Doesn't have much defensive ward coverage, has a little bit, but it's mostly shallow.
I mean, Hara would have to walk through the very top of the map to avoid those wards, so for the most part, Someday is probably pretty safe. And I mean, he can just let this lane push, and he can just farm a little bit closer to his tier 2 turret.
Yeah, really stacked minion wave is pushing.
Yeah, he's got the ward in the tri-brush now that he put down.
CJ have an option here of basically the moment this big minion wave crashes, they can make a play to Dragon and force Someday to choose between 2.5 to 3 minion waves or trying to contest at the Dragon. It's always smart to give those bad choices so that depending on how the Dragon goes, you get a big advantage. And CJ, for now at least, are setting up at that particular timing around Dragon.
Well, they're going for it. All right, KT, they might just let this one go. Giving away an Ocean Drake isn't the end of the world.
Don't have the best wards for Someday to teleport onto. It is level 6, but it is a Fiora who isn't very interested in team fighting at the best of times. Yeah, good timing from CJ. Gets them a free Dragon.
Yep. Cloud Drake is next. All right.
Finally, our first Cloud Drake.
So excited. The best Drake in the universe.
You had this moment of clarity on the plane, right? Head in the clouds.
I realized, where I was up where the Cloud Drakes fly, that it was actually the best buff in the game. I've been saying it all week, man. Once you get that Cloud Drake, every skill shot you barely hit, it's because of the Cloud Drake. Everything you dodge, because of the Cloud Drake. It just enables you to be that much better.
It's an enabler.
It's an amazing, amazing buff. And you get to lane 0.5 seconds faster, so
yeah,
you got that going for you too.
Think of the CS you get. You're going to finish that first item faster because you got to lane faster.
You might get like 16 more gold because of that.
Nice. If it's a cannon minion, it's like 50.
Yeah, there you go. Well, KT trying to protect their tier 2 turret, but good zoning from Sky already. They get a little bit of damage done to it.
And this is once again Operation Get Fiora a Freeze.
Yeah.
So that's why you saw CJ making the move. They're trying to punish KT setting up for Someday. And for now, that's set up for Someday in both bot and now top lane has only contributed 12 CS, but KT just trying to get Someday to that first item and set up an advantage in the split push, which is exactly what KT needs to do. It's very much a 1-3-1 or 4-1 comp from KT, and getting Fiora ahead is their biggest objective.
Yeah, KT just trying to keep their turret alive for the moment. It is taking some pretty decent damage.
Smart thing for CJ to do will be to try and split Siva from the rest of the team. If Siva's at a wave, then a group does 4, then obviously she will do an excellent job wave clearing. But if they can split Siva and Ryze, Ryze only has wave clear every 50 seconds or so.
Yep. Someday trying to stop CJ from getting that blue buff. Looks like it's probably going to come up pretty soon.
He's protecting his pink ward as well.
Yep, that's right. Misses a bit of CS and XP to do it, but
doesn't stop the freeze just yet.
If you can secure the blue buff, I think that'll be worth it. You really want to give that to Fly, probably.
But this is just ideal for Fiora. In early trades, actually, Fiora loses to Trundle pretty handedly. It's only after a couple of items that she can start to come ahead. So getting free farm and just getting free XP to eventually become the split pusher we always know she can be is pretty ideal from the side of KT.
Yep, very true. Wow, it's like a base cannon when people get back to base. Nope, no pun intended, really. Yeah, really nice CS lead for Someday now.
And again, it's the way to wild come from KT. Ryze going to get super powerful. Fly on that Ryze will be able to split push as well. It'd be difficult for Antara to itemize to deal with both the Fiora and the Ryze. And then you just rotate whichever one that Antara hasn't been able to buy as many defense stats on into that lane. So that's what KT are doing.
Yep. Someday nearly done with this wave now.
And Trundle's got nowhere to farm. And this is where the gold lead starts to grow for the Fiora, who at the moment has jumped to about 35 CS advantage over the Trundle.
Oh yeah, it's huge. Buff. And they take it. Oh, Someday goes forward. Gets slowed down by the pillar, but they're not going to find an opportunity to really go after him.
And he returns to a frozen lane.
Pretty nice.
I mean, CJ just have to make a move around the map, and I haven't really considered this, but this is pretty unique when it comes to Trundle, because Trundle's such a strong laner, can be safe even in a 1v2. The one thing he's not great at is trying to make the roam plays. We saw in the previous game, Antara was trying to make the roam plays on Hecarim, who can definitely make initiation plays, but Trundle doesn't have that impactful team fight changing CC for initiation. Obviously the pillar is very powerful, but it's not realistically going to initiate much on a roam for Trundle. So Trundle going into the jungle, that's not really great because of the experience changes and the gold changes. Entering laning, and Someday, well, the lane's been frozen for so long, there's no really good place for Antara to go, and that's why he's 2 levels behind. And now a significant amount of CS, and it's a completed Black Cleaver, just a Tiamat and a bit of armor on the side of Antara.
It's kind of a similar situation to what we saw in game number 1, as far as Antara just kind of getting exiled from most of the map, you know?
Exiled is the right term. I mean, Someday's been the one to decide when to end a freeze, when to pass over the farm. He passed over the farm in bot lane to Sivir, now he passed it over to Ryze in the top lane.
Antara just picked up a cull, I believe. That is some desperation right there.
Might have had it for a while. It looks like it still has about 40 stacks remaining.
Okay.
I don't think you buy a 15-minute call. That'd be sad times.
I hadn't noticed it earlier, but yeah. You'd think you would have had it a bit longer.
I'll confirm when that 4 becomes 3. Could be a 9. Our monitors are small.
Kramer hasn't really used the Ash Arrow yet in this game to try to set anything up. CJ actually getting some really good damage done on that turret.
I've known that Riposte, Someday has always been a god at that ability. There is also the Braum Shield, Sivir Spell Shield also. There's a lot of answers to the Ashe ultimate.
Yeah, it's definitely tough to land right now.
Well, we've got Riposte, Repel. I guess you could just hit the Ryze. That's the one you want to hit, I guess.
Yeah.
Because everyone else has an answer.
CJ,
there's rotations trying to take down turrets. They're getting low, but not actually securing any of those outings.
Yeah. They're getting closer, though. I mean, they're setting themselves up for a big boost in gold by getting, like, 2 turrets down at once. And they might be able to do it this way. Here comes Achani, though. Teleport coming in as well. Achani looking for that opportunity to use the Braum ultimate. Score, though. CJ turns it around. Antara tries to get out of the fight. He'll live for now. And KT on the run. Whoa! Spear from Haru barely misses Achani. And that actually ended up pretty good for CJ. They can go and take this Drake.
Diving into a Cassiopeia is not something you want to do at this point in the game. They have no magic resist on anyone barring just a null magic mantle onto Score. So they got overconfident, over-pursued, funneled themselves into the CC and got punished. So that was just a mistake from KT, and they don't need to do this. They were winning the game purely from the fact that they were able to get farm onto people that needed farm. They do not want to fight early in this game before they hit their item timings. And just CJ probably was surprised to see KT opt into that fight, and while they didn't get the maximum from it, they finally get a kill. They don't quite break the outer mid lane turret, but it's precariously low at this point.
Very true. KT, though, able to respond with that Rift Herald, and given the fact that they gave up a Cloud Drake for this, I think that's a pretty good trade for KT. They can give this to Someday, which they probably will. It's going to make him a little bit better at handling Untara, the 1v1.
He's already doing well in terms of getting himself ahead by CS. Now Black Cleaver probably going to go back and finish a Tiamat, or most of a Tiamat, and the Rift Herald buff. The Glimpse of the Void means that Untara not going to have a lot of fun in this lane.
Probably not. He's going to have to take a long, hard look at the Void, not just a glimpse.
Exposure of the Void.
That's right.
Certainly no freeze being created by Untara here. Slow push is going to come into his turret, but for now, Someday doesn't have the ward coverage to enter lane and top, so he's now the one that's going to try and find farm in other lanes.
No, I got a question about Bard.
Okay.
Not Bard, Braum. He carries that big shield around all day. You know, shouldn't his right arm be like way bigger than his left arm?
That's Tryndamere.
Yeah, but like still, I feel like Braum should have the same thing going on. Because that shield looks heavy, and you don't really see him shift it to his left hand very often.
Well, if he does recall or taunt, he does have the ability with his legs to flip it around, so he just seems like a pretty strong guy in general.
Or maybe it's just not a very heavy shield.
That's true.
It's a magic
It's
shield.
a gimmick shield, just like the chairs in WWE.
There you go. They're not real chairs? What? Are you ruining my illusions?
Your illusions have been ruined.
What are they made out of then?
I mean, they're still chairs. You can still sit in them. They just aren't quite as robust as other chairs. Just like their tables seem to collapse pretty easily too.
No, those are totally real tables that they just found at the venue that day.
And those steel steps that everyone can pick up,
Yep.
definitely steel.
Absolutely,
Sorry.
and not aluminum at all.
Nope.
Time to recall an award. But there's nobody there to really stop him, so
He's
why
sticking
not?
around though, so they know he's there. He's squishy too. Also Bard.
Oh yeah. All right, well, CJ has managed to fight themselves into a tiny gold lead at this point. Got the 2 dragons as well. So definitely doing better than game number 1.
For certain. The lane swap, I think, really helped them to steady through the early game. Obviously, the exact opposite happened in game 1 when Untara died a minute into the game. But you have to remember that Fly is very quickly scaling up. Only a couple minutes till the Rod of Ages is full, and he already has the parts of his Seraph's Embrace. So this Rise will hit 2 item spike very fast. Their top laner also in a snowball matchup is ahead of the enemy, so in a lot of ways the early game has gone acceptably for KT.
Oh, Rune Prison onto Haru. A little bit of damage onto that Nidalee from Fly. Not really having any trouble keeping up in CS.
KT haven't turned it on yet. It'd be interesting to see what they really want to contest. Maybe the next Drake will be where they can finally look for an advantage, and they haven't really ever set up wards to allow Fiora to look for any semblance of pressure onto Untara.
Yeah.
It's actually really risky for Someday to be farming where he was, so back away.
I want to see more ganks from Score. I mean, it's tough now. Well, there's a teleport Someday coming in from behind, and they're going to try to catch Untara, and they certainly might have. Untara, his only chance to really get out of this is probably going to be the teleport. Achani flashing. There's a flash immediately from Untara. That stun passive getting built up. There it is, an easy kill for KT. Untara pushed way up, but CJ responding with a sneak Baron. Fly sees it though. How much damage can he put to the pit? That magic shred could end up being a big deal. Kramer hits him with the Ash Arrow right away though. Fly has to back away. This is going to be a Baron for CJ.
Really nicely done, and we have to remember one thing about the last time Cassiopeia was in the meta. Her damage to Baron has always been super high, just like Azir. Cassio is one of those champions you sneak the 20-minute Barons with, and KT invests so much. Remember, there wasn't even a Drake to pick up. They just wanted to get a kill on Untara, and the punishment is severe.
Now KT does respond by finally taking that mid lane tier 1, so they do open up a lot of map control there. Oh, Tempered Fate barely connecting with Score. Score flashing right as the Cosmic Binding coming in. Flash from Kramer going for it. Score repels, gets over to the Rift Scuttler. Looks like he might be able to escape. That's looking pretty good. Fly just looking scary. Scary as he can with the Rise ultimate.
They played so well, CJ, to take that Baron, but double flash and not even getting the kill on Score is really awkward from the side of CJ.
Well, they're going to get the mid lane turret.
Yeah, they got it lower before. They'll finally pick it up. They do pick up that gold, though, from the turret. So they're throwing a small gold lead. Mostly the Baron buffs separate the two teams.
Well, it looks like they're going to get 2 turrets, actually, as Arrow farms down the bot lane. KT just doesn't have the power of the wave clear right now to stop that.
KT really need to change from their early game where they were freezing lanes. Sunday was top lane with no teleport and no mana, just trying to freeze. And this is CJ punishing them. They tried it earlier, but with the Baron buff, so much easier to power through. And look at how many turrets they're picking up in one play. We don't have a Baron buff power play indicator, but with 3 turrets taken down, CJ's really turning it on.
Yeah, I mean, they've just gained themselves about 3,000 or 4,000 gold, and now going for another Ocean Drake. And Achani, the only one there, so that's just going to be simply the 3rd Drake in a row for CJ, and wow, somehow, some way, they are really kind of running away with this game now.
KT invested so much in freezes where CJ took permanent objectives. Mostly it was the Drakes in the early game, but the Baron buff and now the turrets mean they have the gold and the dragon stacking advantage, and all KT have to show for it is that the item timings from Fiora and Ryze are appropriate. So unless they can find a way to actually allow Fiora to split push and kill the Trundle, force there to be a summoner spell discrepancy, take advantage of their double teleport, CJ in every other way this game has come out ahead.
Yeah. Quite the change from game number 1. And that Cassiopeia pick for Sky certainly seeming to be a big part of that. And Haru has been okay on the Nidalee. Maybe a pick onto Kramer here, though. Aaron score. Oh, the Cocoon misses. Kramer's still in a lot of trouble, though. No flash.
Wow.
Outside Summer Healy actually gets the kill onto Arrow, though, somehow. Wow. Fly flashing, turning it around onto Mad Life. He's in a lot of trouble. Definitely going to go down here. Haru comes back in. Nothing this Ryze could do. KT. A lot of trouble.
It looked like both Elise and Sivir grouped up and they took Hurricane Bolts the whole time. We're going to watch the replay. They're both at full health. Watch how much damage Kramer can do because all Hurricane Bolts are hitting. He gets scored down to 30% health and kills Sivir as Ashe 1v2. And then everyone's out of position. Mad Life's on the bar. They can make the picks around the map. Nowhere for Fly to go. They just disrespected the Ashe damage and she just exploded both of them.
Man, you know, before this game, it did not look like we were going to see a game 3, and now it's starting to look not inevitable, but pretty likely.
KT just made such a big bet on setting up Someday, and that's always been big for them, but they just haven't taken the next step. And when you're freezing, there's so much time for the enemy team to make decisive shot calls. Not something that CJ Entus, it's worth noting, has been known for at any point in 2016. The early game to the mid game has always been their weakest point. But on this game, they've been on point. They tried the early rotations, didn't get turrets, got turrets weak. Then they take the decisive Baron from KT over pursuing a kill on Untara. They return to those turrets they weakened, pick up a lot of turret gold. KT make another mistake, and suddenly, CJ have a firm control in the game.
Yeah, they really do, and Kramer with that Infinity Edge is going to be doing even more damage on that Ashe now. Red buff. Who got that one? Okay, Zero did pick that up.
Someday is the only person who can be happy with how the game is going. Still continues to split push, still doesn't have the ward coverage to do it though. And that's why he's not able to split push turrets like he wants to. If he sees Untara, he might try to all in, but it's so risky when he doesn't know the movements of anyone else on the side of CJ.
Yep, so if we go to the super late game, I mean, KT does have Ryze, they do have Sivir, that's a lot of damage, and this Fiora, again, always a split pushing threat, but do you think it's starting to be a little bit too late?
I mean, the thing is that the map pressure, and specifically the Drakes and Barons, won't be equal between the two teams. If everything was equal, I think KT would have a chance. It's still difficult because they don't have a true tank. They only have Elise and Braum to do some tanking in the front line, but absolutely there's a world where KT can win those team fights in the late game. It's just, it's going to be a world where there's probably going to be 4 Drakes and potentially an Elder Drake buffing up those Drakes. So plenty of true damage on the side of CJ. And also, they haven't had the ward coverage for Someday to split push, so they certainly haven't had the ward coverage to really look around Baron as Someday.
Now they caught Someday again, and just not going to get out of this one. Pops the grand challenge. Oh, I guess he does. Huh, all right. Just a little bit scary. I don't know. Do you feel like CJ could have finished that one off? I feel like they could have probably gotten that.
I mean, there is an element of risk. There's definitely some instant CC on the side of KT they wanted to respect, but again, that's the symptom of the larger problem, is if Someday isn't safe to split push, they probably don't have Baron vision either. They probably don't have pressure anywhere on the map. And if you're forcing Someday to group, you take away a lot of the power of the Fiora pick. So I think CJ just, with how assertive they played the mid game while KT set up these freezes, have won themselves a game that if they played more passively, I think they would have played into the hand that KT tried to deal.
Yeah. Seems like KT too maybe getting a little bit lazy here in game number 2. Not taking CJ as seriously as they apparently should be taken.
Significant item advantage, 3-item Ashe, 3-item Cassiopeia. Only the Trundle, you would say, is beyond his lane opponent, and he's a tank, so he's still a good frontliner. So I don't think CJ can lose a team fight. I think they have the map control. Baron spawning in 15 seconds, and that would ice out the game for CJ Entus.
Yeah, we'll see if CJ can grab that second Baron. Another dragon in about 45 seconds as well. Alright, Tempered Fate. Ooh, 2 skill shots missing, 2 ultimates missing as CJ goes for the pick onto Chanyan's score.
They actually showed a lot of synergy between the two. They were actually in the same area, so it seemed like the CC would have stacked even if they hit the first target. So back to the drawing board on that one for Kramer and Mad Life.
At least finds it hilarious. Baron's up. KT, though, with that play not working out for CJ, has a chance to be a little bit more assertive on the map for the moment.
I don't think Baron buffs the objective, though, Joe. They have no armor. They have very low health. Someday goes back. He doesn't buy a Giant's Bow. He buys another BF sword. He has a pure split pushing build. If they funnel up for Baron, they will explode to any semblance of AoE damage. Not even the magic resist debuff Cassiopeia that I always talk about.
Yeah.
Even Kramer with the Hurricane. We saw what he can do in a 1v2. No one has the armor for them to go for a Baron, even though score, as you can see, is starting to build towards a Frozen Heart.
Sure. All right, another Cloud Drake. Gonna go over to CJ, it looks like.
There's no way for KT to contest this. Yep. Reminds me of some of the games that SKT played during group stages of MSI, where they would draft a late game scaling comp or a split push comp, and in the early game play so passively, the enemy team always seemed to have multiple Drakes, Baron, certainly map control. And some teams won't use that map control to their fullest advantage. And again, CJ's a team, you would say, has done that on many an occasion, but this game they have been much more assertive.
Yeah, where's the game 1 KT Rolster here? Where's the game 1 score? I mean, I know he didn't get in Italy, but still certainly make picks with that Elise.
The lane swap seemed to thwart them in a lot of ways when it came to that sort of pressure. Because obviously jungle pathing is so much more predictable when you're just following your top laner or just grouping with your team. There's less room for innovation and creative jungle pathing. And post that phase, it's been about KT valuing the freeze over making map plays, and CJ looking at the freeze and taking the map around KT Rolster.
Yeah. Someday doing what he can, and he's actually got a pretty good split push going here. They're going to send Utara down to stop it.
Unless he's actually strong enough to turret dive the Trundle, I don't know how much it'll contribute.
Oh, wow, score. Tempered Fate actually prevents the Ashe arrow from hitting him. A little bit of a unfortunate layering of the CC from CJ.
It's twice in a row from CJ. They really need to be more careful.
Yeah, I think so too. That Elise laugh just comes through so loud and clear all the time now, man.
Resonates with you.
I don't know. I just feel like I hear it more now than I did before. It's not like Elise is a new champion. All right, CJ going for another Baron here.
Baron damage is immense.
Yeah, score. Finding Utara, or maybe the other way around, has to flash over the wall. And CJ having to back away from that Baron for the moment anyway.
They had to teleport, so that means the split push is down for a while.
Yeah. That is big for CJ, because now they can start to maybe put on a little bit of split pushing pressure with Utara.
CJ are happy to peel away. They have the double Ocean Drakes. They're going to have plenty of sustain as they clear these waves.
Yep.
Someday actually does invest in some tank stats. It's only a Spectre's Cowl, so certainly not overpurchased. It's probably going to be a Spirit Visage, so that when he does finish the Bloodthirster, he'll have Bloodthirster, Ravenous Hydra, and the boosted lifesteal from the Spirit Visage, so be very sustained when fighting against the Cassiopeia and Nidalee especially.
Now, although CJ is very strong right now, have we really seen them be the most decisive in closing games out?
It was the one area they were strong at in the spring season, but they just really haven't gotten to many late games this season. There's a reason they're last placed.
Yeah.
Their early game is what has let them down. So the fact that they've had a good early game in this particular match is surprising in itself. We'll get another data point. It is Sky and not BDD, so we'll see if there's any mistakes in team fights that BDD may not have made, but CJ find themselves in pretty unfamiliar territory for Summer 2016.
Yeah. Yeah, they are certainly not doing it quickly, that's for sure. And it is only a 6,000 gold lead, and at this point in the game, that gold lead doesn't count for a whole lot.
CJ basically, from the way they're playing, want to take Baron, negate Sivir's wave clear, and walk up and take turrets. Baron seems to be their only objective they're truly considering.
Sure.
So KT able to send their other teleport user and fly down to bottom lane. He's going to walk up though.
All right, Tempered Fate does hit score, but Achani and Someday are there to protect. Teleport coming in for KT. Lion's going to join the group there. No, cancels it. Decides to stay in the mid lane. CJ going to try to bait that Baron for the moment.
This time they didn't layer the CC, so Ash Arrow is still available.
All right. CJ trying to be sneaky there, but KT scouts it out right away. They could, yeah, Fly needs to be careful because CJ could try to collapse on him, it seems like. You don't want that if you're KT.
CJ is surprised that they don't have exclusive vision there.
Whoa, goodbye, Ash Arrow.
That one ward from KT Rolster doing so much work, you can see it just at the top of the entrance to blue buff.
You know, Kramer's doing a lot of damage on this Ashe, but his ultimates have not been great this game. It's been either, you know, layered kind of poorly with Mad Life's Bard ultimate, or it just straight up missed like we just saw.
Finally, CJ clear out the vision, so they now are in a scenario where they can turn onto this Baron.
Yeah.
They have a second pink ward.
All right, Baron time. CJ starts it.
Baron damage is massive from CJ.
Yep, that's right. Should be able to take it very, very quickly. KT can't stop the Baron. Achani trapped by that pillar. He's going to get taken out almost immediately. The rest of KT on the run. They cannot fight this 4v5. Score will be lucky if he makes it out alive. Doesn't look like it will as Sky flashes ahead with all of that damage on the Cassiopeia. Trundle pillar locks it up. And it looks like we're going to be going to game 3.
Does look like that, Doa. They're going to push in. They want to break the base here on the top side. Nothing Someday can do, so he's only now channeling his recall. Inhibitor minimum for CJ Entus.
Oh, yeah. Long death timer for score. Achani will be back fairly soon. They could push another lane here. Oh, it's backing up, playing it safe. Okay. It's fine, too.
They're just so far ahead. This was good from CJ Entus. They wondered how they didn't have exclusive vision before. They got the sweeper back up. They took out the 2 wards. Baron was taken almost instantly. No Mountain Drakes necessary when you have an Ashe this far ahead, and of course that Cassiopeia. And I like the aggression from Sky, you know, guy who we criticized so heavily when he saw him in spring last season, has stepped up, and the Cassiopeia definitely seems to be one champion in his wheelhouse.
Yeah, his Cassiopeias look very good, and you know, we were surprised that they kept him in when they changed out Bubbling for Haru, but you know, then they left that Rise open. KT went for it, and they had that Cassiopeia ready to go, so clever draft from CJ. And it's certainly paying off as they go for this Elder Drake.
I want to commit to Elder Drake's just so damn tanky. 13,000, 14,000 hit points at maximum. Someday Channels is back.
Elder Drake is big.
13,000 odd hit points, as you can see.
All right. Chani locked up a little bit by Mad Life here as he took the magical journey. There's the Tempered Fate. Arrow trying to zone. Mad Life a little bit low health. But there's the Ash Arrow onto Chani now. Turning around for the Braum ultimate. Might still die to the Ignite. Getting so low. Looks like he'll survive for the moment, though.
Rise.
And now, yeah, KT turning it around onto CJ. Fly able to do a lot of damage on that Rise, but CJ just backs up pretty calmly. And Someday just has not really found an angle to do anything on this Fiora yet.
KT fought that team fight very smartly though, Doa. They took the damage onto the front line. They didn't want to funnel into Cassiopeia. Remember, her ult is still up. They still have the Petrifying Gaze.
Okay, arrow just blown up, and that's going to be it. Goodbye, Fly. And CJ has this game in the bag. There's a double kill for Haru, and it's nearly an ace. Only scoring a Chani left, and I think that should be about it.
When Cassiopeia is this far ahead and they have Ashe and Bard, so much turnaround pick CC.
Yeah, another great ultimate from Sky.
They're forced to fight, and that's what happens around a Baron. That's what happens around an Eldrick when you're forced to fight and opt into a fight against this Cassiopeia. The result is clear, and it's going to be CJ equaling up the series.
Yeah, they will, surprisingly enough. It really didn't look like they had what it takes in game number 1, but good draft in game 2. Really making that Cassiopeia pick work, and we're going to game 3.
And the loyal CJ fans here in Seoul East Stadium going to be pretty stoked. We've got a full crowd here. People keep filtering in on this beautiful Saturday afternoon, and CJ Entus has given them something to cheer about, which hasn't been the story pretty consistently in summer. So this is a really big win for them, and KT are going to have to scratch their heads because they tried for the Rise Fiora, and it felt like they invested so much in this 1-3-1 that they watched CJ win the game.
Well, it's funny to see this Fiora not work for Someday, because even though we said previously he was the one making Fiora work in LCK, it's still a pick that overall has not seemed that great this season. And finally, maybe that coming back to haunt KT a bit.
I mean, Fiora Victor has so much synergy. Victor, early power spike, can wave clear, can apply pressure. Fiora Rise, both of them kind of do the same thing. They're both ticking time bombs. And it seems like they invested so much in getting them going that the game was kind of played around them. It was almost like they had double Nasus, and both Nasus never got their stacks, and the game ended before they could get going. So credit to CJ, making proactive plays. We have not said that sentence very much at any point in 2016.
It's true.
But CJ were proactive, CJ took the Drakes, CJ took the advantages, and the game just never got to that late game ultra phase for Rise and Fiora.
And Kramer might have been missing a lot of those ultimates on Ashe, but he certainly did deliver the damage.
That turnaround 1v2 was insane.
Oh yeah.
In the top lane.
Yeah, pretty good. And so we will see if KT can come back and win this series now. Suddenly it's pretty close. I was not expecting this, but I feel like with a different draft from KT, we could see a very different game 3 again. They got a bit surprised by that Cassiopeia pick, but CJ's going to need something else now if they want to win the series.
They were surprised by the Rise being available and kind of baited themselves into that scenario, Doa, so I agree. Different draft, different result, I think.
That's right. Well, don't go anywhere, guys. When we come back, the final game